So the first step to take on the path to a more romantic relationship with your husband is to trust instead of control. Now, if I were to ask you if you were a controlling woman, what would you say? Exactly. No, not me. We have a really negative picture of controlling women, don't we? There are TV sitcoms going on all the time where these women are just so snarky. They're telling their husbands what to do. And in fact, I just saw one last night where this woman was working in her greenhouse and the husband comes in and says that he got a whole new plan for their cell phone system, and she just said, well, weren't you going to ask me about that first? And then she said under her breath, I should have married that other guy. I mean, it's just nasty when we think about controlling women, and we don't think we're controlling. My friends and I didn't think we were controlling women either. But then we went a little bit deeper. We asked ourselves 3 very important questions that I challenge you to ask yourself. And the first one is, do you correct your husband? Well, I have been in the habit of correcting my husband for many, many years. And my husband is fun-loving. He talks a lot. He puts a lot of words into the air, and I am a stickler for pronunciation. So when he mispronounces a word, I step right in and correct him immediately. And it's kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. He'll say something wrong, boom, I'll correct him. Over and over and over. And I remember one particular time we were on vacation. We had saved up for a while and we took a trip to Europe, particularly Italy, with friends of ours. And while we were there, we were traveling through a region of the country called Chianti. Well, Chianti is pronounced Chianti with a K, a hard K sound, but it's spelled C-H. So every time my husband saw this, he said Chianti over and over. So every time he said it wrong, I'd step in and say it right. He'd say Chianti, I'd say Chianti, over and over. And he never improved. This was driving me crazy. Well, when we got home from our trip, we were having dinner with some friends of ours who had also traveled through this area. And Tom kept calling it Chianti, and this gentleman said, Tom, I think that's pronounced Chianti. Tom has never said it wrong since. Why is that? Men do not like to be corrected by their wives. I actually walked into this again this weekend. I know this about my husband, that he does not like to be corrected. And we were having dinner with some friends, and he was talking about this preacher that he had been listening to on the television and how much he liked him. And he referred to his Australian accent. Well, I know that this man is not from Australia. He's from a completely different country, but I know this about my husband, so I just zipped the lip, bit down hard on my tongue, and didn't say anything until the woman sitting next to me said, I love a good Australian accent. And out of my mouth, I said, well, you're going to be disappointed because he's not from Australia. We had a discussion about that afterward. My husband does not like to be corrected in public by me. And I forsake romance. I forsake intimacy with him when I choose to go there. Let's ask ourselves another question. Do I instruct my husband? A lot of us are good at instructing our husbands. I had one woman write to me one time that she had asked her husband to help her more around the house and to help her more with the kids. And so one night he volunteered to give their little girl a bath. And she was like, all right, this is wonderful. And he went into the bathroom and he was starting to bathe her, and pretty soon the little girl started to scream. And the mother raced right in to save the day. And what had happened was the baby had gotten shampoo in her eyes, and she was really upset. So she pretty much elbowed him out of the way and said, well, this is how you do it. And she said, do you think I should have done that? In her letter, and I said, do you think he's going to volunteer to help do that again? And she said, no. Why is that? Men do not like to be instructed by their wives. Now, that's not to say that if your husband doesn't ask you for help, if he doesn't invite you into the situation that you can't give it, that's awesome. That's your entry point. That's your ticket in. Go for it. But in many cases, men do not like this. Another area that we're tempted to instruct our husbands is how to drive, right? That's another area. It's like, how do they make it without us? Why are they not getting into accidents all the time? How can they ever get to their destination without our instruction? But men do not like to be instructed by their wives. The third question I want you to ask yourself is, do I try to improve my husband? It's amazing how you interact with your husband, especially on vacation. Because we were on the same trip, and we were getting ready to go out for a really nice dinner. It was our last night on vacation. We decided to go to a very nice restaurant, and so I'm getting prepared for this, and I'm wearing my heels. I'm wearing a cashmere jacket, a silk scarf, and pearls. You get the picture. And I go down into the hotel lobby, and I'm down there waiting for my husband to appear for dinner. And I'm going to tell you exactly what he had on so that you can understand how difficult it can be to not try to improve your husband. While we were traveling, the other couple and myself had used suitcases, but Tom thought it would be so much fun to carry everything in a backpack. So we're nearing the end of 3 weeks now, and his clothes have been stuffed into a backpack. So he's pulling out, his clothes. And he first started with his zip-off travel pants. Yep, they were pants, not shorts. I was grateful for that. And then he had this white travel shirt on, the kinds that have a lot of loops and snaps and Velcro, so that they can carry things like, ice picks and compasses and, things like that. He's got that on. He's got on his dark tennis shoes with his white tube socks. And then the frosting on the cake was the yellow silk tie he had just bought. And he said, I'm ready for dinner. I want you to know, ladies, I did not say a word. Some of you can appreciate just what restraint that took. Why didn't I say a word? Because I know something now that I didn't know years ago. Men do not like to be improved by their wives. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong picture about my husband. First of all, he knows every story that I'm telling, and he is approved of that. But he is a very fun-loving personality. He's very fun-loving. He would never in a million years dress like that for a business meeting or, some other professional event. But we were on vacation after all. He was letting his hair down. He didn't think he'd see anyone that he'd come into contact with ever again. And so he just had fun with his clothes. But men do not like to be improved by their wives. You see, when we correct our husbands, we're telling them, you didn't do it right. When we instruct our husbands, we're telling them, you don't know how to do it. And when we improve our husbands, we're telling them, you didn't do it good enough. And these type of messages really inhibit the romance and intimacy that you could experience in your relationship.